And from the NFL over to college football, we now bring in Jon Berger to discuss our SEC Game of the Week and other games that catch Jon's eye, our wagering analyst. Jon, let's start with the SEC Game of the Week on CBS. Georgia been destroying opponents this season. They've given up just 59 points in 9 games, but a lot of people are picking Tennessee to cover, saying that they're going to keep it within the 20. No one's picking Tennessee to win. No one's picking Tennessee to win. Just cover.
Yeah. Is that what's going on, Jeremy?
Yeah. Jon, where do you fall here? Give us some sense here.
Don't complicate it, Jeremy. Don't complicate. I've seen everything I need to see at Georgia. Look, there's Georgia, and then there's everybody else. I understand the logic. You break these two teams down, and you dive into the numbers and double-click through all the normal stuff. You know, the argument that people are trying to make on the Tennessee side of the equation, I get it. I'm just not buying it. And that argument is they're one of the top teams in the conference, creating those big plays downfield, knocking the top off the defense in the vertical pass game. They've created 26 of them. I understand that. But understand that Georgia's one of the top teams, not only in the conference, but in the entire country, not giving up chunk plays. So to make the argument that Tennessee's going to win or even cover this number, you have to believe that Georgia's back seven can't step up and they won't step up. And therefore, Tennessee's going to create a lot of big plays and be able to jump on this thing. I'm just not buying it. I've seen enough of Georgia. Defensively, this team is ridiculous. They've never given up in a single game this year more than 13 points. I think that's going to hold. I like this defense. They've been very consistent throughout the year. I think they can man up in those one-on-one situations. I realize it's a big number. I'm just not going to complicate it, not going to put a huge bet on it, probably a medium-sized bet on it. But I'll take Georgia in this spot. I've seen all I need to see out of Georgia. It's them and everybody else in the country right now.
Taking Georgia and the under 56 points. Tennessee scored 14 points combined in the last 2 meetings between the teams in Knoxville, and that was before Georgia had one of the historically best defenses in all of college football. Okay, interesting point of fact for Oklahoma this week here, Jon. Their game against Baylor is their first game against an opponent ranked by either the committee or the AP this season. Sooners are one of only 4 Power 5 teams which have yet to play any team that was in the previous week's CFP Top 25. 5.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 62. What's your play?
Making me nervous, Jeremy. I know you looked this up. You probably saw my pick, and now you do this to me every week, buddy. You try to make me nervous. It's not happening, man. I'm going to be consistent. I'm staying with my principles, Jeremy. You know this. We've known each other for a long time. Couple of observations. First of all, you got to have a lot of respect for Baylor and what they've done. They're undefeated at home. This is not a Baylor team like we saw 5-6 years ago, where they would line up and throw the ball, 100 times a game, see what happens, not play any defense. That's just not this team. Baylor's physical on the offensive line. They can move you around the field. You look at them defensively. You look at what they did at home in all 5 games. This is a very physical football team, and they can push you around, move you around. But what I will anchor to is this. When you look at Oklahoma, Jeremy, they haven't lost a game in November in 7 years. And so what that tells you is not only you might want to pay attention to that trend, but it also tells you that it's go time in November. They've been very consistent. I like Caleb Williams at the quarterback position, being able to create, being able to improvise. There's going to be situations on Saturday that Baylor's going to make things very uncomfortable for their traditional attack, and that's why you like to have a quarterback behind center that can create, improvise off the broken play. You saw plenty of examples of that in the Red River shootout against Texas. I think you're going to see more of that on Saturday. I realize the math will tell you, a lot of the models around the country will tell you, take obviously Baylor at home plus the 6. I'm going to anchor to what Oklahoma does in November. Furthermore, I think this is a must-win situation. I think Oklahoma needs to make a statement game here, a statement performance. And it's not going to surprise me if you see one of those first 2 or 3 drives that Lincoln Riley right now is working up in Norman, where the Baylor defense is going to be standing around looking at each other, not knowing what's coming. And you saw the best of example of that a few years ago when Oklahoma went on the road, played Ohio State at home. The first 2 or 3 drives, there wasn't a single play that the Ohio State defense had seen. I think you're going to see the same kind of effort, attitude, edge out of Oklahoma. I'm going to take them to cover this on the road against Baylor. I'm going to take Oklahoma in this spot.
Oklahoma owns Baylor 28-3 all time. They've won 7 straight and are 13-2 against them in Waco. So, Jon, making a lot of sense. Okay, the last time Purdue beat Ohio State in Columbus Red, Red Wine, Love Bites, and Groovy Kind of Love were the top 3 songs on the Billboard 100. That was October
Is that
of
right? I failed to look that up this morning, Jerry, so thank you for that.
October of 1988, John. You were a young fella making the world.
I was 1 year out of high school, man. That's how old I am.
There we go. Boilermakers won their last meeting in 2018, but have never won 2 in a row. They're 3 TD dogs here, John. Are those points just too good to resist for you?
Yeah, the answer is yes to that. You know, I like the people who write articles in papers, and you probably saw some of this, Jeremy, over after they had that big emotional win against Michigan State. Everybody likes like the little taglines, right? Like Dicker the kicker, that, you know, the fabulous player down at Tech has been walking around for 3 years because some guy tagged him the Dicker the kicker. And then I saw a bunch of stuff the last 2 weeks calling them the Purdue spoiler makers. And that's cute, but if you're going to kind of put a tagline on Purdue, I would call them market makers, not spoiler makers. Look at what they've done the entire season. They knocked off 2 top 5 teams in Iowa and Michigan State. They roll up and play Ohio State this weekend. That's too many. I'm going to take Purdue in the points in this situation, Jeremy, primarily for 2 reasons. When you look at Ohio State last couple games, Michigan State was successful at bogging them down a little bit offensively. Nebraska was successful at bogging them down a little bit offensively, ultimately won those games. 9 trips in the red zone for Ohio State. Last 2 games come out with 3 or 4 field goals. That's not going to work. So that's kind of point 1. Point 2 is when you got a guy on the opposing side of the field, an explosive playmaker, and I'm talking about David Bell for Purdue, that guy only has to get loose in your secondary 1 or 2 times, and you're talking about a 14 or 21 point swing. You take all that into the fact, I'm just going to take my gut feel here based on the 2 points I just brought up. I think it's too big. I think you take Purdue in the points in this situation. I think Ohio State obviously finds a way to win the game, though. And,
John, give us your best college football bet of the weekend. I know we're staying in the Big Ten for this one.
I don't get this one. Look, you look at this Michigan State and Maryland. You look at both teams offensively, what they're able to do, both teams defensively. It screams over to me. I'm not going to touch the spread in this situation, but again, you look at these 2 teams and their ability not only to create big plays, but to kind of move the defensive line and kind of enforce their will at times on the opposing defense. We've seen examples of it the entire season. I just think in this situation, my best bet, and where I'm putting my largest waiver this weekend, is taking the over in the Michigan State-Maryland game. I think I'm not sure how they indexed on this one, but I'm just not seeing it. I think it's a safe deal to go over.
Maryland 0-11 versus teams ranked in the college football playoff, including 3 losses versus Michigan State. John, great to see you as always. Our wagering,
good to see you, Jeremy.
College football wagering analyst Jon Berger. Picks for Week 11 of college football. Let's recap those picks for you. John likes Georgia, saying it's not going to get complicated. Likes Georgia and the under. In terms of Oklahoma, again, not complicating matters. He likes the Sooners, and he's going over the 62. He's going over 62.5, but he doesn't like that spread with Ohio State. He thinks Purdue will cover that. He'll take the plus points there. And his best college football bet this weekend, Michigan State, Maryland, he says take the over 61. Our SEC game of the week, Georgia has won the last 4 games in the series with the Volunteers, as well as 9 of the last 11. Each of the last 4 wins have come by at least 23. It is our CBS SEC game of the week. It kicks off Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.